Hey, hey, Sacred Circles family, it's Ray. Happy summer. And on that note, if you hear noise, my children are home. So sorry, y'all, it's summer break. I wanted to recap what we talked about last week, June 22nd, which was developing a healthy sense of self that is aligned and empowered. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because when I was doing this self rebuilding journey, I remember listening a lot to my favorite psychologist, Jennifer Finlayson Fife. Love her. But she talked a lot about a solid sense of self. And it got to the point where I'm listening, I'm like, I got so sick of hearing it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, even though I listened to her talk, I'm like, I don't get what you're saying. Like, I'm willing to change, I'm wanting to change, but what the freak are you talking about? So, in order to avoid that frustration, we're going to break it down. Now, when we talk about a sense of self, what we're really talking about is our deeper awareness of our I am, not our roles and the things that are outside of us. That can be associated with our identity or our ego, or even our personality might be like, I'm shy or I'm outgoing. Our sense of self is like, where does our goodness lie? Now, the reason that this is important is because having a sense of value that nobody else can take from you is super, super important. Also, it's my personal opinion that those of us who have a tendency towards being sensitive or being spiritual can really hide a weak or underdeveloped sense of self behind altruism. So what I mean by that is that altruism in and of itself is a great thing. It's an unselfish regard and devotion to the welfare of others. However, when we use that as an excuse or a coping mechanism, it's not really helping us. So we're going to go through some markers and how we might be bypassing a stronger development in boundaries by using altruism as an excuse. All right, grab your duct tape in case your brain melts out your ear. First of all, we're going to talk about avoiding disagreement. Yep. Difficulty expressing disagreement or personal opinions, not because you don't have them, but because you've learned to equate disagreement with disconnection or unkindness. This gets masked as being, oh, I'm just easygoing and, I'm just super understanding of where other people are. Well, that could definitely be the case. But are you being avoidant? Is it really that you're afraid to have the conversations and disagreements? Okay, next one. Being over accommodating. Going out of your way to adjust to others' needs or schedules, even if you barely know them, but, oops, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, or they haven't asked you to. That's important too. You're just assuming. And feeling like that makes you generous or a thoughtful person, even though they might not have asked for it. The truth may be that you're uncomfortable saying no or asserting your own time and priorities. Chronic self-sacrifice. Raise a hand if you're in the room. Allowing yourself to be inconvenienced repeatedly. Bending your plans or energy to meet perceived needs of others. You may tell yourself you're being selfless, understanding, when in fact you're actually disconnected from your own needs and autonomy. It's easier to give other people what they need because they seem to know what they need. Then you don't seem to know what you need. Find out what you need. It's really important. Okay, next. Decision paralysis, masked as harmony. Having trouble making decisions, especially in group settings, and masking it as, oh, I'm just happy if everybody else is happy. This can stem from the fear of upsetting others or fear of being too much. I struggle with this one because I have a lot of weird dietary restrictions, and sometimes I have a hard time standing up and being like, that difficult person who's like, well, I can't eat gluten, I can't eat this, but it's important, right? All right, hiding your passions, keeping your true interest, preferences, or quirks hidden out of fear of being misunderstood or rejected, telling yourself, they wouldn't get me, or, I'm just so special, nobody can really understand me. Really, you're just afraid of being seen or rejected, or maybe not being as special as you think and realizing like, we're all kind of in the soup. All right, next. Tolerating mistreatment, excusing poor behavior from friends, family, or partners, saying things like, they don't mean it, or they're actually a really good person once you get to know them. This often stems from confusing compassion with I always say this wrong. Erasure. There we go. There it is. Self-erasure, which is suppressing your own true nature as a coping mechanism. Yeah, I learned a new word while I was like Googling stuff. Anyway. Next, taking pride in being low maintenance. You might wear the badge of being easy, low drama, or undemanding. But what's really happening is that you trained yourself not to take up space. Hyper availability. Being one who always says yes or answers the late night call, not out of joy, but out of a fear of being unseen or unloved if you set limits. Chameleon behavior. Adapting yourself to fit the energy, preferences, or beliefs of whoever you're around, and calling it being empathetic or highly sensitive when it's actually a loss of personal center. Now, I'm not saying that. Obviously, I'm a super highly sensitive person. I can take on people's energy, but we're talking about like doing this without boundaries. Okay. All right. Spiritual bypassing of anger. Convincing yourself that anger is low vibration, so you suppress it. This isn't dealing with it. This is suppressing it. Not realizing that righteous anger or justified anger can be a healthy sign of selfhood and self-respect. Yep. Yeah, raise your hand if you still struggle with getting angry. Oh, me. Okay, I'm working on that one, though. Over-functioning in relationships, taking responsibility for someone else's emotional state or healing journey. Telling yourself you're being supportive, but actually you're just trying to earn love through self-sacrifice. Ugh. So I don't know if any of those resonated. And the point of this is absolutely not to create shame in anybody, but we can't change behaviors if we're not aware of them. So next thing, what we did in our groups is that we asked some questions like, what do these feel familiar? And pretty much everybody who's in our group is, have some awareness of this. And so where we went from here is like, how can we create better boundaries? Because a lot of this stems from not having very good boundaries. And so there's like a million ways that you can work to develop your sense of self. But I decided that we were going to practice saying no. So we did some sharing time about times that we've overridden our no. What did that feel like in our bodies? And so we can better recognize when we're doing it. I asked a bunch of questions, but to me, if you take anything from this video, if you're still watching at 7.5 minutes, 2 questions that I would like you to ask yourself as you think about when you override your no. What thoughts or beliefs came up that pushed you to override that boundary? What thoughts or beliefs came up that pushed you to override that boundary? That's really important. Second question, what were you afraid might happen if you set the limit? What were you afraid might happen if you said no or said I can't? Or not now, maybe later. Okay, so following along, didn't get to come on Sunday, ask yourself those questions. And then the last thing, I made people a little bit uncomfortable. So I broke them out into pairs and they discussed things, but then I asked them to do a low stakes offer, like, may I shake your hand? May I touch your shoulder? What else? Just little things like that. Can I give you a high five? And I challenged them to take turns saying no. In a safe situation, something very simple. Can I give you a high five? No. Not only what comes up when you say that, but what does it feel like to receive no? Can you receive no gracefully? Can you receive no without feeling butthurt? So it was a great exercise. Everybody was super awesome. I made them super uncomfortable. I'm so sorry. I don't usually push people that much, but sometimes we have to get a little bit uncomfortable so that we can grow. So I hope I haven't scared you away from coming to Sunday Circle. You can always put a pass, because here we go. We can always say, no, Ray, I don't want to do that. Anyway, I hope you took something from this 10-minute video. I hope that you have a wonderful summer, and I look forward to seeing everybody the second Sunday of July, which I don't have the date off the top of my head, but I hope everybody has a fabulous rest of the... Oh, don't forget, next Sunday is the retreat. If you're still on the retreat, 29th, if you haven't signed up, do it. I've got a couple more tickets. It's going to be this times 10 times amazing. And we'll see you soon. Circle soon.